What is up? What to do? Here we are, the FFU. I'm Jeremy Schulman at FF_Rebel. This is Jesse Muller at JMuller05. Today we are talking about running back rankings for Week 7. Who do we have high and low? Where are we on consensus? And who should you expect to go off on your bench? And who should you expect to insert into your lineup as a flex? We'll talk about all these things. But first, Jesse, how's it going?
It is going good. I am looking at my rankings, make sure I'm not looking like an idiot as we're about to talk about them. So yeah, overall, feeling pretty good. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about these running back rankings for Week 7, and hopefully, we hit and make some money for everybody.
Yeah, well, apparently, according to the Fantasy Pros consensus ranks, I'm looking like an idiot every week when I'm talking about my rankings, except for week 2. Otherwise, yeah, it's been a rough go of it so
What
far.
do they know? Nothing.
Obviously. So first today, we will talk about the Tyrone Tracy. Not first, but he's probably pretty high up there if you know anything about Jesse, and our running back rankings for week 7. So we'll go through Jesse's rankings here, and we'll start with the top 3 names because they are 3 massive names in the running back rooms around the league. It is Saquon Barkley at 1 at the New York Giants, Kyren Williams against the Las Vegas Raiders, and Derrick Henry at Tampa Bay. Jesse, what do you love about these 3 guys this week?
I mean, a lot of and Henry's a little bit where it's game script dependent, but if they're ever expected to lead, which they are going to this week again, they're favorites. Mm-hmm. You just ride head Derrick Henry in that offense. He features it so well. I think his yards before contact is up to 3. Last year it was atrocious Tennessee. He's basically getting great line play, and he's just being the guy he always was, or his tackle breaking machine. And so I really love Derrick Henry. It's really hard for my bias to put Henry at week 1, RB1, and I'm really considering it. But Kyren Williams he's a volume monster, and he continues to score. And even when that offense has been down, with Matthew Stafford not scoring the fantasy points, Kyren Williams is still managing to get in the end zone consistently each and every week. I think he scored a touchdown every week. They're going against Vegas, and Vegas is just an absolute dumpster fire. And Saquon might be a little bit spicy at 1, but I just love Saquon Barkley and that offense, and they're probably going to lean heavily against the Giants in this matchup. Hurts has struggled. He's been up and down. They tried to get Barkley going last week. It did not work out. I expect that to kind of turn this week in his favor and have a really good smash week for everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the matchups are so tasty for these top 2 guys. And then Henry, you mentioned Kyren not having scored at least once in every single game this week. So has this year. So has Derrick Henry scored at least once, sometimes twice in games, every single game this season. So these guys are the elite of the elite. And if Cooper Kupp doesn't return, Kyren Williams could absolutely be the RB1. Even if Cooper Kupp returns, it's not enough to take the focus away from Kyren. So he should smash in an absolutely awesome matchup. It's hard to argue with Saquon. Let's move to the next group of guys. We're going to group it with 4 guys here. We're going to start at 4. It's Kenneth Walker at Atlanta, Alvin Kamara at 5 versus Denver. At 6, it's Bijan Robinson against your Seattle Seahawks. And then at 7, Joe Mixon. He's back at Green Bay. What do you like about this next group?
Mixon's dealing he's still questionable tag, so that's why he's a little bit lower. But I love Mixon in the Texans offense because they're running him more under center. It gives him time to get him up to speed. When he was running out of shotgun in Cincinnati, it did not work out well for him. He's super inefficient. Now that he's in an offense that fits his skill set better, he's been much more efficient, one of the best running backs in the NFL. And I will say for Kenneth Walker, his utilization is up near the league leaders. You could make a case for Kenneth Walker to be RB1 the rest of the season, and you're not going to hear me argue it because that offense is having to run the most plays in the NFL. They're dumping it down to Walker. That was the key situation where he wasn't getting last year. He's finally getting the targets. He's playing all those third down snaps. Charbonnet is really just a handcuff. He's not playing anything alongside him. So I had to adjust my priors on Walker. I was very much #wrong on that one. And I'm willing to admit, Walker's one of just the best rushers in the NFL, and he's in a great situation. So I love all of these guys in this matchup. You can make the case to put anyone, really, basically RB1. And I get it with Bijan. People are worried. Algier. I'm not. The Seahawks defense is trash right now. They can't do anything. So I'm expecting Bijan to absolutely churn up those yards because he looks great against the Seahawks defense. So I'm expecting a shootout, and I'm expecting both of these guys to get home for you running back. So start them confidently.
Yeah, agree. I think Algier absolutely is a good play. We'll definitely be seeing him on the next list, probably pretty high up. With Kenneth Walker, for sure, What does he have? 5, 8, and 8 targets over his last 3 games. That is the type of usage you want to see. And I am right there with you. He's probably RB1 for me rest of way. Atlanta here, but Buffalo, the Rams, then a bye. San Francisco's tough. Arizona twice, Green Bay. So I just think he's absolutely going to go nuclear for a couple of matchups here. So we will see. Moving on to the next grouping, we're going from 8 to we'll go to 10 here. We'll stick with 3 guys. We got Chuba Hubbard at 8, a super spicy, and I love it, ranking of Chuba super high at Washington. We've got Breece Hall at 9 at Pittsburgh, a little bit lower because of the matchup, and Tony Pollard at 10 at Buffalo. Let's talk about these 3 running backs.
Yeah, Chuba's been really, really good. And I love Jonathan Brooks, love his process. I think he's a better running back. But Chuba in his current situation, Miles Sanders is not going to really compete with him. And Chuba's been number 1 in rushing yards over expectation. He's been super efficient. And even in these games where they get behind, they're still rushing a lot with Chuba because that's the one thing that's working offensively. Yeah. The guards they brought in along with the center tandem has been really good. Now their center's a little bit injured, so TBD on that. But they're featuring Chuba to the point where you just got to stop doubting him, man. He's been awesome. So we'll see with Jonathan Brooks, but I'm expecting this week to be a slow ramp up. I don't trust Washington's defense. They just lost, I think it's Jerome Payne. He's out for a little while. So their defense is a little bit softer than it is, and you could score fantasy points against Washington. The rest of these guys, like Breece, I think his usage is going to be really good. I am curious to see with Todd Downing if that holds up. If that does hold up, where he's basically being a featured back and Braylon Allen is more of basically similar to Charbonnet in Seattle, a handcuff instead of a 1B, Breece vaults back up because that usage last week was really great, and we love seeing that. So I kind of want to see it one more time before I push him up there. But yeah, you can make the case. If that sticks, Breece is going to be a top 3 asset the rest of the way. So I'm very excited for him. And the last guy who I'm blanking on because I cannot find my rankings.
Tony Pollard.
Yeah, juicy ass matchup for Tony Pollard. Pollard's been really the guy we thought he was in Dallas previously. The injury last year really hurt his season. He's back to being that guy, and I had hopes for Tajay Spears. They are dead for me, folks. Until an injury happens to Tony Pollard, it's Tony Pollard's backfield. He looks incredible, and the usage and everything, similar to Carolina, it's really the only thing working for them in Tennessee. Like Will Levis and those quarterbacks, not good. The Calvin Ridley experience, not going good. The one thing that's working is Tony Pollard, so I expect him to heavily feature Tony Pollard again in this matchup. He's a locked-in top 12 guy for me.
Yep. Tony Pollard, super buy low right now. If you can get him, I don't know if you can, on a contender, you absolutely go get him. The matchups are spicy and juicy for the rest of the way, and he's going to go off in this one. He's my RB5. So I'm right there with you on Tony Pollard going off this week. Let's move on to the next group. We start with J.K. Dobbins at 11 at Arizona, Josh Jacobs versus Houston. We got Jahmyr Gibbs at 13, and we'll bring in David Montgomery as well at 14, back-to-back for the Detroit Backs. What do you like about this group of 4 guys?
I really love the Lions. I know it's a bad match with Minnesota and all of the things that in there. David Montgomery's usage has just been awesome. He's been the heartbeat. I'm thinking it's 2 forces going against each other that are strengths. So I'm curious to see if the Lions can win out because their offensive line is the best thing Minnesota's faced this year. So I think I get it with Leslie Frazier in that defense. They got Ivan Pace rolling in the middle, but he's small. So I think the Lions could wear on this defensive line and they could get more rushing yards and really just be that successful offense we've seen with Jared Goff pulling the trigger. The one guy who really didn't get home last week was Jahmyr Gibbs. I expect him to get home this week where he'll probably get the touchdowns that David Montgomery's been getting each and every week. Josh Jacobs, he's just not getting the red zone, the touchdowns that we like to see. But overall, his usage is fine. I'm not too worried about Josh Jacobs. It's a good matchup. I'm playing him. And then J.K. Dobbins, man, Arizona's defense is trash. If you've watched them play, they can't stop anybody. J.K. Dobbins had 27 opportunities. So if they're going to feature him at this insanely high rate, I have to adjust my rankings on him. So we'll see if that goes because they brought in Kamani Vidal. He basically was even with passing down snaps with J.K. Dobbins in this game. So I'm curious to see if that stays. But if you're going to give any running back 27 opportunities in a game, that's what we love to see. So I'm just going to trust Dobbins until I don't have to.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with these guys. I think Josh Jacobs probably finds the end zone this week. Let's all light a candlelit vigil for Jacobs to score. Weird with Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he's getting the usage he normally gets. He's just not scoring the touchdowns in every single game. And I've seen people panicking on Jahmyr Gibbs. He's not the top 5 RB that was promised or that they expected. Are you panicking here moving forward with Gibbs? Do you think Monty eats in every single week to this extent, or is it normalized?
Well, Monty's utilization has been better the last month. It's kind of shifted a little bit, and these are some of the matchups they've had, like the Cowboys, where the Cowboys defense is trash. Right, they're just going to lean on David Montgomery.
Seahawks,
I
Arizona.
think in this matchup, like they're not going to lead as heavily on David Montgomery because Minnesota's defense is a little bit better. So I think it's a little bit better for Jahmyr Gibbs this week, but still, I can't just expect that to change. I kind of want to see it change. So we'll see. It's kind of going to be matchup dependent between those guys, but you can make the case they're both like locked in top 12 guys each and every week, which because the Lions just produce fantasy points nonstop at the running back position.
Absolutely. We're going to have two more groups here until we get through the top 20. So at 15, we have Brian Robinson against Carolina. 16, Kareem Hunt at San Francisco. 17, Jordan Mason, who is against Kansas City. And we'll throw Achane in there against Indy with a juicy matchup if he plays at 18. Let's talk about these four.
Yeah, I think Jordan Mason's the most interesting because we don't know if he's going to play. And it's a bad matchup against Kansas City. So I'm treating as if he's playing. If we come out where he's still limited a little bit more, I'm going to knock him just more because Jordan Mason's not really a pass catcher. Like, that's not how he specializes in. So I'll probably end up moving him down to about running back 20 in that range. But yeah, I'll wax politically about Devon Achane. Remember, he got injured early in that game, so it didn't work out for him. But Raheem Mostert was used. He had 20 opportunities, was super efficient, looked really good. I'm expecting with Tyler Huntley, I think he's projected for like 183 passing yards in this game, which is really bad, that they're going to feature against the Colts defense that can't stop anyone. So you're going to get HN, you're going to get Mostert, both of these guys doing their thing. It's more the ceiling is not there, but the floor I think is really high with both him and Mostert this week.
Yeah, Achane also practicing in full. I have Mostert over Achane, but both of these guys I think are going to eat just because of the reason you just mentioned. And let's not sleep on Brian Robinson, running back 15. He's done it all season, and he gets the juiciest matchup for running backs against Carolina. I think Washington absolutely goes off. Brian Robinson probably in for a multi-touchdown day, if not at least one.
As long as he's fully healthy and goes, I'm going to bump him up a little bit. It's the questionable tag has me a little bit worried.
For sure. 19 and 20, we have James Conner and Chase Brown. Conner against the Chargers. Chase Brown in Cleveland. So a bit of a rougher matchup for him. Mm-hmm. What do you like about these two rounding out your top 20?
So Chase Brown's starting to steal some of the passing down work from Zach Moss. And if that's the thing, then we really need to focus on him being the RB1 in that offense because it's been kind of up and down with these two running backs where it's been back and forth. They're finally, like Chase Brown fumbled, they brought him back on the field immediately and gave him snaps, which is a huge sign of trust from a coaching staff, right? So we're seeing that a little bit more. And just to be honest, he's so much more explosive than Zach Moss. Zach Moss has never been the explosive back. Chase Brown moves differently on the field. My concern was he was never going to get the trust to be playing pass pro alongside to protect Joe Burrow, like your $500 million man, right? So the fact he's getting that is a very big sign from the Bengals that they trust him. Now Zach Moss is dealing with an injury. Like, we'll see how it goes for him. I'm curious to see. But if this sticks moving forward, I'm going to move Brown up higher in rankings because that offense has always trusted their running backs to produce a ton of fantasy points. If Chase Brown can steal 60+% of that, he's going to be a borderline RB1 for US for a year. So I like him a lot. Javonte is interesting. It's just a bad matchup. But overall, I know people were worried how it went last week. I'm not too worried about it. I expect Bo Nix it's similar. I think he's projected for 200 yards in this game. They're not going to lean on him. They have no wide receivers. It's going to be a Javonte Williams show. He's playing the passing down work, and James Conner's just kind of dealing with an injury. So I unfortunately had to move Chase Brown or James Conner down a little bit.
Yep. So that's Javonte at 21. Tank Bigsby at 22. Love these next three names. Bigsby at 22. Tyrone Tracy at 23. And we'll throw James Cook in there at 24 because he might not play. And we can talk more about Bigsby and Tracy. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, if Cook plays, I don't expect him to play, so that's why I kind of knocked him down. But until we get word, I'll probably just kick him out. Which means Ray Davis would kind of go into this range. But these two guys, I really love Tyrone Tracy. I think he's great. My concern is Singletary, and I don't know how this is going to go. So we'll see with Singletary, but to be honest, I just think he provides a different element than Singletary. So I'm going to rank Tracy above Singletary. I just kind of want to see how this works out with these two backs because freaking Dayball loves Singletary. He's always loved Singletary, dating back their time in Buffalo. But if you watch these two players play, it's like, ooh, one guy's this explosive. It's similar to Buffalo. Cincinnati. One guy's this explosive monster, Chase Brown. That's Tyrone Tracy. He gives him a different element. And Singletary is consistent. He's solid back, but he doesn't really do anything special. So he doesn't elevate the offense. He's more of the fuller play. So that's why I'm going to roll with Tyrone Tracy. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And Tank Bigsby, I get it. He didn't play the passing down snaps. That game got out of hand last week.
Great.
And if he's not playing the passing down snaps, that's why they went to Dearness Johnson. I'm expecting them to have a lead in this game against the Patriots. Maybe that doesn't come to fruition. That's how it doesn't pay off. But if they're going to be in the lead in this, like kind of controlling the tempo in this game, then he's going to get his because he's going to get all the run he can. So I'm not as worried about Tank Bigsby as other people might be.
Yeah, agree with you. And Jesse, if you were so not worried about Tank Bigsby that you would try to get over to London and go see Tank Bigsby at Wembley Stadium against the Patriots, how would you do that?
I might call some people, and if I can't find tickets, then I might reach out to a certain particular company. There it is. Oh yeah, I know that's Travis Etienne on the cover. We might need to change that.
It sure is.
But yeah, go check out SeatGeek. Use the promo code FFUniverse, and you get $20 off your first order. So take advantage of it. Go check the game. I know you're going to the game, so maybe you got some buddies over there you can call. Use that advantage. Save $20. Hey, what do you say? Fun time.
That's it. And for Travis Etienne, do we think he's going to have a role, or do we think it's mostly Bigsby here? Can Etienne even get on the field at this point?
Yeah, because he's dealing with that injury, right? So it's really weird with him. I don't know how to fully rank him, but I'm expecting like with Dearness Johnson's role, he can just siphon Dearness Johnson's role because Dearness Johnson's not a good running back, right? And Etienne has that cachet. He's still first round pick. I think it's more like he plays the passing down role because Tank Bigsby is just. If you look at last year, he was atrocious as a pass catcher, and that's all they know. So Doug Peterson's like, why would I put this guy in passing down situations? It was not good. So, yeah, I could see them kind of splitting where Tank Bigsby is the rusher, getting between the 20s, the goal line work, and Etienne plays the passing downs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably likely. We'll see how it shakes out against a not as great New England defense. Moving on, we have Austin Eckler at 25, Bucky Irving 26, Najee Harris 27, Alexander Madison at 28, and the Raheem Mostert extreme shade at 29. Jesse, explain yourself on Raheem Mostert 29.
I know. I might need to move him up a little bit. The interesting thing with Alexander Madison is he has his best game of the year. He's going against a Rams defense that's just awful at stopping basically everyone across the board. So I think he can get the volume to get there because Dylan Lobby got a snap, fumbled, and they were like, all right, see you later, Dylan Lobby. It's not happening for you. So I get it. He's really the only running back you can quote unquote trust on that offense. So it's very sketchy. Najee Harris had his best game of the year, but if you look at the snaps, it was the least amount of work he's seen in a game. So it's kind of like they still trust Jaylen Warren. I'm expecting them to implement him more into the situation, and it's a bad matchup against the Jets. So I don't know how good this game is going to be for Najee, but I don't expect him to do what he did against the Raiders because we talked about the Raiders being a really bad defense. Yeah, the Jets are not that. Teams can bully the Jets up front. I don't think Pittsburgh can. Their O-line is really suffered and dealing with injuries. So that's kind of my concern with Najee. And Bucky, I just like the talented player in Bucky. I don't know how it's going to work out, though. So I think it's more of a floor play. Sean Tucker, I need to move up in my rankings because I'm expecting them to split. And then if Rachaad White is actually healthy this week, it's a disaster starting any of those guys. So it's kind of like I'm treating Bucky as the 1A until we get some more news on it. And just Eckler, it's a great matchup. Like Brian Robinson's injured, so they'll probably feature Eckler more. And like Carolina just bleeds fantasy points running back. So you can definitely fire up Eckler as a flex play.
Love all of that, but I'm not letting you get away on your Raheem Mostert slander that easily. Jesse, do you think Mostert has the opportunity to get more than 98 all-purpose yards and 2 receptions this week?
I think he definitely has the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Well, he finishes the half PPR RB 22 last week on all of that without scoring a touchdown. Adjust your ranks.
Yeah. He needs to be like in the kind of the Tank Bigsby area of rankings more than likely. I still have problems with that.
He's my RB 16.
Ooh, I mean, he's your guy, right? So yeah, 100%.
Let's go. Raheem Mostert season for as long as he can stay on the field. We'll see. Let's move on to RB 30, Nicholas Chubb against Cincinnati. If he plays, oh man, that's a good first matchup. 31, we have Zach Moss. 32, Ty Chandler. 33, Tyler Algier. We can throw Antonio Gibson in there at 34. Why not? Because the matchup is juicy against Jacksonville, and Ramondre Stevenson may not play. So 5 guys there. Let's talk about it.
I mean, Nick Chubb, you just want to root for Nick Chubb and see how it goes. My whole concern with Nick Chubb is his offense is terrible. The O-line's been really bad on top of it, too. That's the big thing. They used to have one of the best O-lines in the league. That's been gone for a couple years. That's not the same offensive line. And they've told us with their personnel decisions, they don't want to ground Nick Chubb into the core of the earth like we talked about with Najee this offseason with Pittsburgh. That's not what they want to do. And I get it. We had J.K. Dobbins do his thing, but like he's a lot younger than Nick Chubb. He doesn't have the multiple like knee issues that Nick Chubb has had. So I need to see it from Nick Chubb. I'm still willing to rank him in top 30, so I don't mind flexing if you're desperate because the matchup you can get there. But man, I'm a little concerned. Like he could be just slowly brought in this game where you could put up like 3 points for you. So like I think the floor is incredibly low for Nick Chubb. And I'm not so sold on the ceiling for him in this matchup in week 1. I just kind of want to see it for it. So that's why he's there. If he comes back and they're like, hey, here's 20 opportunities, Nick Chubb's going to fly up rankings. But until then, I just need to see it. The rest of these guys, Algier could have a good game, like even spelling Bijan a little bit. So I like him against the Seahawks defense because the Seahawks defense just hasn't been good. Chandler, I don't know how to rank because the Aaron Jones thing and all of like what's going on with that. So if we get clarity on that, I'll move him up because he'll be starting running back. I mean, Gibson can get their pass catching work, so I don't mind Gibson, but it's really hard to trust that offense with that. We'll see because Drake May scrambles a lot. If he dumps it down a little bit more, I'll have a little bit more faith in that. And yeah, like that's kind of where these guys end up.
On our start sit show, I read off the Patriots offensive line. Of the guys that we had never heard of, there were at least 3 guys that I'd never heard of as a Patriots fan. 2 of those guys did not start, and they signed guys off the street and started those guys instead. So, I mean, they're just down so bad that it's really hard to get on board with Antonio Gibson. All of that said, he had plenty of opportunity and at least went for 3 receptions on 24 yards in the passing game. But the running game is abysmal, 1.5 a carry. At least Jacksonville will be a little bit of an easier matchup. So, yeah, I think you can flex him if you have to in a desperation way.
I think so as well. Yeah,
100%. Let's round out the top 36. We have Ray Davis, Justice Hill, and let's include 2 more guys, Jaylen Warren at 37 and Kamani Dahl at 38. All of these guys hovering around RB3, RB4 status. What do you like about potentially flexing these guys this week?
I think they all present different elements. With Ray Davis in particular, like we talked about earlier, if he's the starting running back, he's vaulting significantly up rankings. I just don't know how that's going to go. But I think he could play a role alongside James Cook where he kind of more caps his ceiling. And they both become decent plays for you, like week in and week out. Cook's the more like standard floor play. Ray Davis, like he's just a really good rusher, and I think he fits that situation really well. So I'll make the shot on him. I think Justice Hill in this game, Tampa Bay, like he could get some work in the passing game, so that's why I don't mind ranking him there. But be careful with Baltimore. This is like it's very game script dependent, and I don't know how that's going to go out. I think Tampa Bay can push them enough where they use him where he could be a somewhat viable flex play for you. I still like Jaylen Warren, man. Like I'm not willing to just throw in the towel on Jaylen Warren because of one game coming off an injury.
Yep.
I'm willing to see it more. I just think he's a better player than Najee, so I'm going to keep him in that range. And then Kamani Vidal, like the pass catching back, we saw it in week 1. He made an explosive play. We'll see if he earns more work. And against Arizona, man, like he could be in for more where you don't want to give a running back freaking 27 opportunities a game. That's just asking for injuries to come. So I think they're going to limit J.K. Dobbins a little bit so they can prolong him for the season.
Yeah, I love it with Jaylen Warren for sure. It's just a really tough matchup against the Jets, so that's why we have him this low at 37. Vidal is a really good grab and stash. We know Dobbins does not have the track record that we like to see from running backs staying healthy, so it's very possible he starts to eat in, like you mentioned, if they just want to keep Dobbins fresh. And then in the case of an injury, we have the contingent upside that we love to talk about in fantasy football. So, yeah. Go get Vidal if for some reason he's still on waivers. Let's power through the rest of these. We got about 12 more names here. At 39, Zach Charbonnet, Singletary at 40, Aaron Jones at 41, Tyler Goodson at 42, Sean Tucker at 43, probably too low. Isaac for the number 1 running back last week, and Isaac Guerrero at 44. Let's talk about these 6 guys here. A couple of them probably injured and not playing. But let's talk about some of the more interesting names here you might be able to flex.
Yeah, that's the guys that are injured. It's going to be hard to figure out. So I'm waiting to kind of move them around in rankings. I put them there, just kind of keep them there. If they're going to play, they're obviously going to move up because like they're quote unquote starting running backs, right? I think Tyler Goodson's the most interesting one. I would honestly against Miami, I'd rather just play him. Like I think and if I'm not sure with the other back there if he's injured or not, if he's playing, but if he's out and it's just the Goodson show, like yeah, just roll with Goodson. I think he's better than Sermon. So we saw it in week 1. More efficient. Yeah, Sean Tucker just needs to move up. I struggled on where to put him because I'm waiting on the Rashad White news. But like we talked about Baltimore, it's a terrible matchup for running backs. They do not give up rushing yards. So this is why Bucky probably needs to come down. Sean Tucker needs to go up. I just think it's more likely Bucky gets the passing down work in that game, and that's why he's higher. But if it's just those two guys, like I'm fine with it. The floor is a lot lower, man. This is not the Saints defense. This is like probably the best rush defense in the NFL, and they just cut people down. So Tucker needs to move up, but yeah, I'm not super excited for him, even though he's coming off just an incredible game.
Yeah, and Raheem Morris already said that these guys are healthy. He's worked his way into a three-headed backfield. We don't want any head coach to use the dreaded term three-headed backfield. No. Sucks for fantasy, but we could see all of these guys splitting. They're that good. Bucky is that good on the ground. Sean Tucker looked that good, both on the ground and through the air last week, and they were not just using him in garbage time. So really interesting there. We'll see what happens this week with injuries. Let's move on and let's lump the rest of these guys together. We'll start with Braylon Allen at 45 against Pittsburgh. Emmanuel Wilson, who's been coming on against Houston. Dearness Johnson, who came onto the field for some reason last week. Jaleel McLaughlin, Ramondre Stevenson at 49, and Jonathan Taylor at 50. A couple of those guys might not play, but what do you think about this last group?
Yeah, I'm not anticipating Stevenson and Taylor play, but they are there just in case they do play. I don't want to flip them out of rankings, put them back. But McLaughlin's interesting. Like his role just has not been what we expected it to. Like you looked at all the previous stats for years in Sean Payton's offenses. The RB2, man, they were putting up numerous points, but this Broncos offense just ain't it. And his role's been super inconsistent. So I don't mind taking the dart throw on him if you're super desperate, but I think there are better options than him. Case in point, Dearness Johnson, I don't think they're going to be down by 20 points. So I don't think they're going to need to feature him in pass protection and all this fun stuff.
Maybe.
I think he can give you a little bit. Like I think he could do some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like that's why he's down low in rankings. I don't really want to play him this matchup. You really need him to get a touchdown. I think that's how that works out for him. You're counting on that. Sure. And yeah, Wilson is like cutting into Josh Jacobs' role decently where, you know what, he can get some goal line work. He can actually get in a couple pass catches. I don't mind him. But yeah, when we're this low in rankings, like Braylon Allen going against Pittsburgh, that does not sound super appealing to me because of what I talked about before with Breece Hall. Like it looks like it's his backfield. And if that's the case, like you're not going to be able to play Braylon Allen anymore.
Yeah. Agree. We'll see. I mean, Braylon Allen did have a touchdown taken off the board last week. The problem is this week he's got a difficult matchup against Pittsburgh. So I think he earns this low ranking here with his usage. Dearness Johnson, yeah, we'll see. I mean, this guy should not be on the field. Tank Bigsby has looked electric. We'll see what happens if he's capable of pass blocking for Trevor Lawrence. I think the answer is no. And then, yeah, the rest of these guys, who knows? At least Emmanuel Wilson is is interesting with the potential injury to Josh Jacobs, but that is not the case at the moment. So that's about it. Wrapping up Jesse's top 50 running backs for week 7. Those are his rankings. You can check out all of our rankings at fantasyfootballuniverse.com. You can check us out on Twitter. We're on X, which is the same thing as Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. So come find us, Fantasy Football Universe. We are everywhere you want to be. So for Jesse, I am Jeremy. And once I find the outro and figure out how to play it, then we're going to leave. See you later.